Now we're travelling just north of Australia to Kokoda in New Guinea, from where the two teams report.
On the edge of the Pacific Ocean and north of the continent of Australia lies a mysterious place of breathtaking natural beauty and mind-blowing cultural diversity.
It's a place where ancient traditions still play a major part in everyday life and where people still live in vast tracts of unspoiled wilderness.
Not only is it Australia's closest neighbour, but was actually in Australian territory for 30 years up until 1975. Though now independent, Papua New Guinea still holds very close ties to the continent of Australia.
From its unique involvement with the Fuzzy Wuzzies during the Second World War, to close economic ties, aid work and tourism, Papua New Guinea is a place that captures the hearts of many an Australian and a place that we've been absolutely dreaming about visiting. Upon entering Papua New Guinea's capital, Port Moresby, we were confronted instantly with the rugged Owen Stanley mountain range, which forms a dramatic backdrop to the city, and a constant reminder of the vicious fighting that took place here during World War II. And the graves of many fallen soldiers whose lives were claimed by the various battles fought in the region during the war can be found here in the city itself.
Here at the Bamana War Cemetery in Port Moresby lie the graves of 3,778 men and one woman who died during the Papuan campaign of World War II. 3,400 of these graves are dedicated to Australians who lost their lives defending the soil of their closest neighbour. However, many of the bodies still lie unidentified on old battlefields deep in the Papuan jungle. And it's deep in the jungle where our first Papua New Guinea adventure will take place, in the hills above Port Moresby at the start of the famous Kokoda Trail. While Australia's close relationship with Papua New Guinea is based on a number of factors, there is arguably none more solidifying than Australia's involvement in the various battles fought on Papua New Guinean soil in World War II. Against all odds, in appalling conditions and suffering great losses, the Aussie diggers fought with all their hearts to halt the brutal Japanese advance and then finally push them back over this mountain range and eventually off Papua New Guinean soil altogether. The story of the Kokoda Trail has etched itself into the Australian spirit as one of the most important moments in Australian wartime history. It was here in this rugged terrain where the Australian diggers faced one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. Outnumbered and outgunned by an estimated 5 to 1, the Allied forces were pushed back as far as the ridges overlooking Port Moresby itself, but against all odds, the Japanese advance was stopped in its tracks within 30 miles of their goal. Tired and outnumbered, the Australian forces needed an advantage over the Japanese, and it came by road from Port Moresby to here at Owen's Corner in the form of a very destructive weapon, the 25-pounder gun. From here, these immense weapons were dragged up through the steep, muddy mountains into positions at a metre ridge. Today, we're here at Owen's Corner and are going to take part in the one-day trek up to a metre ridge, the site of Australia's final stand against the Japanese and the beginning of their advance into the Owen Stanley Range. I suppose you could say this is the road to victory. It was obvious almost as soon as we set foot on the trail how hard life would have been for the Aussie diggers here during the war. The mountains are horrendously slippery and steep. The soaring temperature and sticky humid air made it difficult to breathe, while the track itself is often little more than a slushy pool of mud and water. Fighting in the Owen Stanley Range was often described as being worse than hell itself. Not only did the diggers face the constant threat of Japanese attack, their bullets and their bayonets, but the conditions they were forced to endure are literally undescribable. It rained most of the time and the men were racked with malaria and dysentery. It's sometimes estimated that as many as 3 times as many men died from illness as in actual combat. However, through all this darkness, angels did appear. The story of the relationship forged between the Australian soldiers and the Fuzzy Wuzzies during the battles of Kokoda and in the Owen Stanley Ranges is one of the most moving in Australian history. As the ill-equipped and outnumbered soldiers fell victim to Japanese attacks and illness, they were left stranded up here in the mountains with a long and arduous journey back to camps near Port Moresby. And it was these local Papuan villagers
who came to the rescue to help save and transport the Aussies back to safety. Still today, the spirit of the Fuzzy Wuzzies is kept alive. However, instead of caring for Australian soldiers as they did in the war, locals up here help out trekkers along the steep and difficult terrain.
Two such modern-day Fuzzy Wuzzy angels who regularly assist trekkers along the Kokoda and Amita Ridge trails are Wilson and George, who we met on our way. They had just completed the entire Kokoda trail in an amazing 1 day and 1 night, a hike that usually takes between 6 and 9 days.
It took us 1 day, 1 night. We left Kokoda around between 3 and 4:30. We walked all through the night, through the day, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon we were at Goldie.
And believe it or not, George didn't even take any shoes.
To avoid sliding or what that is, with the best shoes I made it through. Our forefathers were the Fuzzy Wuzzy angels during the war, so to live up that legend, we had to, go through the trek and, to carry on the spirit, to live on the spirit. Yeah.
Back on the track, it was becoming obvious to us that without these local guides, it would be almost impossible to complete the trek. And we soon became good friends with the Fuzzy Wuzzies who were helping us out today.
This is the trek where our forefathers, the Papua New Guineans, assisted the Australians and fought the war and won the war. They carried the ammunition and the food supply, and when they were bringing those things in, they saw wounded soldiers, Australian soldiers on a trek. They were lying on the mud, and they did stretchers using bush materials. And they carried them back to for medical assistance.
You hear stories of Australian soldiers after being wounded, lying in the mud, looking up, thinking that all's lost, that they're pretty much definitely going to die, and then they see the face of a Fuzzy Wuzzy angel to come and save their lives. I mean, does it feel good to know that you're a part of the people that did that?
Oh yeah, these days we feel very, very good. We're almost there.
And though the going was pretty tough on this particular track, we did take the time to have a look around us, and there's no denying that, like all of Papua New Guinea's precious rainforest, it is a very beautiful place with some amazing scenery.
And if you thought the walking track was muddy and slippery, just wait till you see the road back to Port Moresby. It was exactly this road which was used to transport the 25-pounder guns to Owen's Corner. And as you can see, after a bit of rain, the ride along it can be quite a hair-raising event.